Change can be frightening. Moving from the familiar to the unknown is risky. But today's guest says cast off fear and embrace the change. He knows what he's talking about. He's held 18 positions in his illustrious career and been fired 39% of the time. In just a moment, you'll meet our special guest, John Tarnoff. I'm Mike Tucker, and we're here to help you create your best life possible.
This is Lifestyle Magazine with your hosts, Dr. Charmaine Long, Obi DK, Lionel LaMountain, and Mike and Gayle Tucker.
Many people are experiencing big changes lately, whether from downsizing, job dissatisfaction, or something else. Our guest today is a graduate-level professor and the head of industry relations for Carnegie Mellon University. He's going to show us some steps to make those changes a bit easier. John Tarnoff, thank you for being here.
Pleasure.
Now, you've been through quite a few career changes, job changes. Can you walk us through some of those?
Well, I come out of the entertainment industry, which of course is a very changeable, tumultuous profession.
A
little fickle. I was an executive for many companies, some studios, had a career also in technology. So, you know, I was used to the idea of change. It's kind of endemic to that profession. And what I realized is that the narrative that I kind of developed over the years of all of these changes and learning how to adapt to changing times and changing politics and changing business models has now kind of caught up, and the boomer generation, of which I'm a part, is now experiencing the same kind of story, because the world has also become a much more changeable, much more rapidly evolving place, and our generation, unfortunately, is kind of caught in a particular dilemma, because we are getting older. We're supposed to be able to retire, but it doesn't look like it's going to be able to.
No, it's not happening.
You know, when I hear your story, it just really strikes me. There's something about you I want to talk to you about. Most of the people I work with, I don't know, you probably see it too, is their top primary need they try to fulfill is the need for certainty, and then usually it's significance right after that. Right. Looking at what you've been through, it doesn't seem like you have a problem with uncertainty like most people do. How do you deal with the uncertainty? Right. You know. Well,
I think it would be disingenuous for me to say that I don't have a problem with uncertainty. I think we all have a problem with uncertainty.
You cope with it really well.
It's a human condition. Well, I think it's something you can learn to cope with. And I think for me, what I have realized about this is that it's an internal process. And that it really, or the way to address this is really not through external means, where you say, well, I'm going to make my lists and I'm going to make my phone calls and I'm going to go.
And that's what most of us do to deal with that, so we can have some certainty.
I think we have to really, particularly those of us who have been on the planet a certain amount of time, have some experience and some resources to be able to share. We need to kind of take a moment and go inside and really figure out a bunch of things. I think, you know, my plan has always been to kind of reverse engineer what's apparent. So if you kind of start with the external, it's like, okay, I got laid off. So what was that about? What did I do? What did they do? What did I really want to do? Maybe, and this was definitely the case for me, in many cases, I had outgrown those jobs.
Oh, I see.
And there's this great line a teacher of mine once said, God fires you from jobs you're too dumb to quit.
I love that.
Isn't that great?
That's good.
and I think it's very much of the time it's true. And you're overstaying your welcome, and they know it, and you don't know it, or you don't want to know it, because again, we certainly love that security of having that job. So you start to kind of take that step back and think, okay, well, what is it that I really do want to do? And what's standing in my way of doing that inside? Because I think a lot of the times we have our own fears, our own limiting beliefs about who we are, about what we're able to do. So the process that I've been developing now over the past few years, having kind of gotten out of entertainment and into education, and focusing on the boomer generation, which I realize needs this kind of work, is what's that system? What do you do to get that cycle going where you can figure out what's your next move, how do you go about doing it, how do you create the vision for that life that you want, and then go out and do it?
You're talking about a system, but what I hear him saying too is really what I hear you saying too is instead of getting your sense of certainty out there, like you talked about many people try to do, what I hear you describing is a process that starts with getting certainty within first. This is where it comes from, not from out there in here. And there's a psychological component to that too, I don't know.
Yeah.
But it also takes you out of victim mode, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. And I think victim mode is something that is very toxic for all of us.
Paralyzing.
Right. It's the real enemy. I mean, I think anytime we are playing the blame game, where we say, well, you know, they never understood me, and I was doing all this stuff. I mean, it's very easy for us to do this.
Natural.
But it's very dangerous. We really have to take a more balanced approach to assessing our roles and to learning our lessons.
And so stop giving away your power when you do that.
Right. This is all about lessons.
Victim mode says what they did to me, and you can just stay in that forever. Just rehearse it over and over again. But that again keeps you from ever moving forward. You're saying accept personal responsibility. Maybe you had a part in this, or maybe you should have been fired. Maybe it was time, huh?
Right.
Maybe it was time.
Okay.
And maybe I had nothing to do with this.
Yeah.
But here's the reality, right? So what's the opportunity now that I can pivot to?
Okay.
Where are the lemons? Where's the lemonade? Let's accept that there are certain things that I can control, certain things I can't control, and move on.
Yeah. When you get fired, especially for a man, it seems to me, so much of the self-esteem is tied up in what we do, what we produce. And when suddenly someone says, you're not going to do that anymore, I don't want you to do that anymore, that kind of hits the self-esteem pretty hard. What do you do with that?
Well, I would reframe and look at it that how we tie ourselves up shouldn't be in what we do, it should be in who we are.
Who we are.
I love that.
Right? And if we are focused on who we are, then what we do is much more interchangeable in our lives.
It's ancillary.
Right? And someone said to me a long time ago, you are not your job, you are not your resume, you're a lot more than that, right? You're a work in progress. So if we are able to take a step back and remember that, then I think it makes the transition from a job loss a lot easier to handle, or certainly a lot quicker as a process.
And it sounds like life expands and gets bigger because you now have more options because you're not so narrowly focused on that. But it's so easy to focus on that thing you lost. The door
Especially
that
when it's
closed.
a paycheck, right?
That's the point. There are bills to pay.
I also think there's a shame factor in here, which I think we have to talk about and deal with. And I think there's a lot of fear that we have going into a job interview where someone's going to ask us, well, tell me what happened at your last job.
Yeah.
That is scary.
And if we have any shame about that, any doubt about that, we're in trouble.
Yeah, we are.
It shows.
Right? So I think we have to figure out how to accept what happened in that job, and we have to be transparent about it. We have to be able to say, well, it didn't work out. And I may have made some mistakes, but I've learned from mistakes, and here's what I've learned. Right?
Yeah. I wish we had more time to talk about the shame issue because that is huge, I think, especially for men.
Yeah.
Men live with that, but we have to take a break. When we come back, we're going to get some tips on how to make changes and make that whole process easier.
The truth is in here. DiscoverOnline.org.
Hey, how's it going?
Sir, are you okay?
What? Oh, this? It's probably nothing. I'm sure it'll go away.
Go away? But, sir, that can't be good.
No, it's cool. Really.
Do you want a napkin or something?
Everything's fine. Thanks.
You wouldn't ignore this. So why ignore the signs of a stroke? At the first warning signs, call 911 immediately. Because time lost is brain lost.
secrets out.
Get the keys to longevity and a better quality of life from your friends at the Seventh-day Adventist Church by visiting www.healthylifeinfo.com.
We're talking about making life changes with John Tarnoff. Now, I want to, you've held a lot of different positions that are really interesting. What are some of those?
Well, most recently I was head of show development at DreamWorks Animation.
DreamWorks.
And, I spent a number of years at some of the other studios, MGM, produced at Warner Brothers and Columbia, had a technology startup in the 90s. So I've been a little bit all over. I'm kind of a guy with a short attention span.
A little ADD, are you?
A little bit.
Those are big names. We've heard of those.
Yeah.
This is not a small thing.
The job landscape has really changed recently, and that makes, it makes trusting the plan more difficult, I think, when you've been laid off. What keeps people from trusting the plan?
Well, I think people are afraid of change, and I think as human beings, we tend to want to preserve what is in our comfort zone, and I think unfortunately, for that part of us that wants that comfort, the world today is changing much more rapidly than it ever has, and we have to change with it.
Absolutely. John, I've been seeing more and more patients in my clinic who are really at crossroads in their careers, in their 50s, sometimes even their 60s, and they just really don't know what to do next. Do you have steps that you recommend for people to try to figure out what they should do next, how to figure out what they would like to do?
The headline for that for me is that we have to start inside. We have to begin with an internal process. Losing a job is a very traumatic occurrence. It really is it's a loss. It's a loss very much the way the loss of a friendship or a relationship or a loved one.
Does it ever get less traumatic? I'm just curious. 39% of the time. Does it ever get less traumatic?
Well,
35%?
I think perhaps it gets a little less dramatic. It certainly becomes more familiar, right? So the steps to recover become a little bit more familiar, but that grieving process, that loss, goes on. So I think we have to expect that. I think we have to, first of all, be gentle with ourselves during this process. I think part of the problem sometimes is that we either place too much blame on ourselves or too much blame on others. So I think we have to take appropriate responsibility somewhere in the middle for what we did, what we didn't do, and what lessons we've learned from the process. And I think that is one of the things that helps us to move on, is to accept that there were valuable lessons that we learned in each of these experiences.
You talk about 5 stages in your book. Would you like to share that with us?
So one of the things that I've kind of put together through my own personal experience and through having earned a master's degree in spiritual psychology is to understand what some possible methodologies could be for us, particularly for boomers, to get to the next level. Because obviously, boomers, we're going to be living longer. The economy is not quite what we expected it to be.
No, not at all.
The story that we expected that we were going to be able to fulfill is not the way it's turned out. So again, it's about starting inside.
Okay.
And the first stage for me is what I call reframing. So it's about looking at our beliefs and our ideas about ourselves and about life and allowing for the possibility that there could be a different way of looking at things, preferably a positive way of looking at things. So if we say, well, I'm not the kind of person who can do this kind of thing. Well, really? Is that true? Maybe you can. Maybe if you really give it a little bit of thought, you might be able to do that. Second stage then is to listen. And we talk about listening skills a lot out in the workplace, but I think it bears repeating that listening is very, very important. We're so used to wanting to get our point across, particularly if we have to get another job, find something to do, we want to be able to sell. I recommend that we take a step back and listen for feedback. Perhaps it's feedback that we don't want to hear. Perhaps it's someone saying, the mistake you made in that last job, you may not want to hear it, is this. And this is valuable. I mean, the universe is full of information. Let's use this to our advantage, right?
Spiritual feedback.
So we're listening to
absolutely.
Family, friends,
colleagues. Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. And then the third stage would be to accept it, right? This is, I think, very difficult for a lot of people. Whatever happened in the past, whatever you did, whatever you didn't do, that's the reality. The reality is that you're in this situation. So you better make the most of it.
Sure.
And the first step there for me is accept. Accept yourself, accept others, because if you don't do that, you can't move on, right? And those 3 stages I call the reconciliation stages. It's the prep that you need to do before you can actually get involved in the plan. Because if you're not clear about yourself and about other people and about what you've done, how can you start fresh? How can you hope to create something that's going to be valuable for yourself in the long run?
And by the way, those stages are very similar to the processes of grieving that I've taught people in grief courses.
Yes,
very,
absolutely.
very
Absolutely.
similar.
So then the 4th stage would be what I call expressing. And that's really about expressing for yourself and to yourself who you are, who you want to be, what you want to be doing, creating a vision plan for yourself.
That sounds fun.
Right.
Yeah.
And I know that you do this kind of work in working with your clients. Right?
I do, absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
And having a vision is a very, very powerful process. And I think the universe listens.
Sure.
When we're prepared to state who we are, what we want, you know, ask for what you want. And you may be surprised that it comes back to you.
Yeah.
So that's that 4th stage. And then the 5th stage and the final stage is to take it out there. It's to connect, right? And in the 21st century, with digital tools being what they are, we have so many amazing ways to connect with people. And this is not about connecting on paper, right? This is about developing relationships. And people say to me, well, you know, I've got 5 different versions of my resume, and I've sent them out to 25 different companies, and I didn't get a call back.
Yeah.
Well, of course, you know, because
they have a huge drawer over here.
exactly. There's thousands of other people doing the same thing. So what I say is, start by building relationships, right? And we have so many wonderful tools to do this through social media today. It's staggering. I mean, as a boomer, I like to say I feel like I'm living in the future because
that's true.
right? Because the resources are just so amazing, and that's how we're going to how to do it, because we're going to connect with people who say, you know, I know a guy or a girl who who's thinking along the same lines as you are. When I was at DreamWorks and other jobs and I was hiring people, resumes would come in from human resources, and that was fine, but I was more interested in talking to my connections, to my network, and saying, who have you got who'd be right for this position? I wasn't expecting people to come in over the transom. So if you're applying out there to a job, you got to remember, it's more about your network.
Yeah. And, you know, again, you mentioned the digital tools, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, all of the above. All of those can be valuable tools in going through this process. Yeah. Which, again, I'm a boomer as well. It's a whole new world for us.
Yeah, it is. It is. But I would just say about boomers is that Bill Gates and Steve Jobs were boomers.
Yeah,
right?
that's true.
Right? So we're the generation that invented this.
All right.
Oh, generation.
So pay homage to the boomers, would you? And right now I'm going to pay homage to the clock because it's time for us to take a break. And we're going to take a break right now. We're going to have Cooking with AJ, and then we'll be right back.
Welcome home, man.
For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son.
God loves me so much that he sent down to earth his boy.
God loved the world so much that he gave his only Son.
His one and only Son. And this is why. So that no one needed to be destroyed.
The Heavenly Father loved the human race so very much that he gave his one and only Son.
That he gave his one and only Son.
God loves the world so much that he gave us his son, Jesus.
That anyone who believes in him will not die.
We're not gonna die,
That whosoever believeth in him should not perish,
but have everlasting life.
Everlasting life.
Eternal life.
And anyone who believes in him will live forever.
And that's a long time.
Beautiful, no matter how you say it. For more on John 3:16 and other texts, go to myfavoritetext.com.
We are excited to be here with Chef AJ, and you have some great stuff to show us.
Absolutely. So
All right,
I'm
we
going to
want
show
to
you
see.
guys some two very delicious, easy salads. You know, a lot of people think of salad as lettuce, maybe a tomato. Doesn't have to be that way. So the first one is a quinoa salad with pistachios and
quinoa.
Me
I
too.
know.
It's high in
That's
protein.
yummy.
It's easy. It's one of the quickest cooking grains. So I've got my quinoa. I've already cooked it, and I'm going to add 3 of my favorite herbs. I've got some Italian parsley, some fresh mint. Chop it as fine as you like. Some scallions. Pomegranate seeds, and when these aren't in season, I recommend you freeze them because they're so good in salads.
That's a good idea. I didn't know you could
Absolutely, you
freeze
sure can.
pomegranate.
Pistachios.
And quinoa is really good for you, right?
Absolutely, it's actually a seed. It's technically a seed, but we use it as a grain. It can be It can be used for sweet or savory. It can be even used for breakfast. Yeah. It's absolutely delicious. It's easy to cook. It cooks in less than 10 minutes. This is tricolor quinoa. You can get one color or several colors if you like. Some currants. If you can't find currants, you could use goji berries, raisins, even cranberries. And here's my dressing. All it is lime juice and a little bit of lime zest.
That's it.
That's it.
How easy is that?
It's super
and it's so
easy.
pretty.
I love
Look at
that red pomegranate in there.
You can see on the camera how pretty it is.
It's such a pretty salad. I recommend if you do make this in advance, don't put the nuts in until right before serving because they get a little bit soggy. But it's such a pretty salad and so festive, and it's great to take to potlucks, and it's healthy, and people really like it. You can almost eat it for dessert. That's how delicious it is.
And look how quick. You chop
really
a few things and you're done.
And if you didn't want to cook the quinoa, you can get it already made nowadays, just like rice. And you could actually even use rice for this if you didn't like quinoa for whatever reason.
Beautiful.
But who doesn't like quinoa,
Now
right?
you have another one, right?
Right, another easy salad I'm going to show you right now.
All the antioxidants and nutrients in there is fabulous.
I call this summer watermelon.
Smells good.
It does smell good. I call this summer watermelon salad, but it doesn't have to be summer as long as you have watermelon. So you cut the watermelon in even cubes, and then we've got some cucumber. You can take the peel and the seeds off if you like, and the ratio is up to you. I like to have about twice as much watermelon as cucumbers. That's just my palate, but however you like it. It can be 1 to 1 even. Again, fresh mint, nothing like fresh herbs in a salad. If you are using fresh lime, use the zest. And again, lime juice. Lime juice makes an amazing salad dressing. It really does.
Lime juice does everything,
right? Because
doesn't it?
it's so sweet.
Fantastic.
You know, they're just so much sweeter than lemons. And again, this is a very pretty salad as well. And you know what's great is if you make this salad and you make too much, maybe on day 2 or 3, it gets a little soggy. You can put it in a blender and make a smoothie.
Oh, wow. Okay, I think we have to taste.
I bet the lime is a really neat contrast to the sweet of the watermelon.
A moment. Do we get to?
So
good.
I hope
so.
Yeah.
Oh, well, you get the big plate. You can eat it right out of the bowl.
Oh, they're so good.
Thank you.
Recipes on our website, lifestyle.org. We'll be right back.
Some secrets are meant to be kept. Some are meant to be shared. But the secrets that matter most are the secrets of the kingdom. Secrets of the Kingdom will take your children on an audio quest they will want to experience again and again. Your children will follow their guide Silversong as he takes them on a journey to a most special place called the Kingdom, to meet someone who loves them very much. This wholesome story of faith, prayer, hope, and love is dramatically created with narration, dialogue, sound effects, and songs. Secrets of the Kingdom is available on CD or cassette for $9.95 plus shipping. Just call our toll-free number, 888-940-0062. That's 888-940-0062. And ask for Secrets of the Kingdom on CD or cassette. Secrets of the Kingdom. Let the adventure begin today.
secrets out.
Get the keys to longevity and a better quality of life from your friends at the Seventh-day Adventist Church by visiting www.healthylifeinfo.com.
Well, we've been talking about making changes, especially as it relates to baby boomers, but now we maybe need to shift that just a little bit in our last couple of minutes. Obi, you've got a question about this, don't you?
Nothing against baby boomers, and I still love you, Mike. Okay?
Well, I'm glad to hear that.
What about the young people coming out of college? How are they supposed to look at themselves as an entrepreneur? How does that happen?
Right. Well, great question. And as you know, I work with the university program, so I have a lot of grad students who are in this professional program on their way out the door into industry. So I think a key question, which is definitely true for boomers and it's definitely true for millennials coming out, is that it's a proactive world, right? Okay. You have to be really focused on providing value. So I say to people, no matter what your position is, whether you are a freelancer, whether you're a salaried employee, you need to think of yourself as a consultant providing value to a client.
Okay.
Versus an employee taking directions from a boss. Okay. And that's a key paradigm shift.
That's a big change, isn't it?
The world is changing very rapidly, and businesses are being born and becoming obsolete every minute, it seems like. So the key differentiator there is value. Businesses have to be creating value. They have to have a business model that can do that. And the world is changing very quickly, so you have to be focused on value.
Do you tell your clients to never be afraid to reinvent themselves? Do you have to anticipate that? Do you think?
Absolutely, absolutely. I think it's all about reinventing yourself at every moment.
And I'm not afraid to stop because we have to. So I want to thank you, John Tarnoff, and Chef AJ, and thank you for being a part of this one as well. We look forward to seeing you again next time. But until then, you take care of yourself. Bye-bye.
To get a copy of today's offer, call 888-940-0062 and be sure to visit our website at lifestyle.org.